Hi, my name is Bode Asamoto. Welcome back to the Green and Black podcast. And today we'll be talking about resignations, routes, and more. So today with me on the podcast, we got Reece Nagaoka, our editor who has been here since last semester, and today with us, joining us for the second time actually,
First time in 2022.
first time in 2022, first time as now a co-host, Tanner Haworth.
I'm glad to be back. Coming back as a sports writer, not the sports editor. Thank you very much for taking all that work off my plate so I can actually do my homework.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now I have that issue.
Well, it's definitely a lot of fun. Looking forward to, a lot of really great sports being played, as we know. Charlie Wade and Arang Ganat really handled it this weekend, don't you think?
I think they did very well this weekend. To be fair, though, Charlie Wade did have new program Edward Waters and just completely blew them out of the water. I'm sorry. My sweatpants say Dad brand, so I had to.
Well, I think what's really great about that game with Edward Waters, it's a brand new program, like you'd already mentioned. So I think that's for the bigger picture kind of deal. It's a really great, series, I think, for college volleyball. I think, their first ever game is against the defending national champions. And unfortunately, looking at the scores, it really does look like a brand new program going up against the defending national champions. Even though, we're without guys like Rado, Colton Cowell, Patrick Gassman. I mean, it really just looks like we're kind of going for title number 2 this year, doesn't it?
It does. And the thing is that usually when you see matches like this past weekend that were so lopsided, it's almost wrong to say it was beneficial to both sides, but in this case, it kind of was because for Edward Waters, it's nothing better than starting your program off by playing like you said, the defending national champions, the number 1 team in the country, and it's in Hawaii of all places. I mean, who doesn't want to be here for that? And there were points where they did show flashes, like you said, I think it's like 14 or 15 new freshmen on the roster. There's a lot to be played for this team in the future. I think it looks bright for them. And then for Hawaii, they got, I want to say like 15 players, about 15 players who saw action this weekend off the bench.
I think I saw it was 11 register to kill or something bigger than that. Because I think they got the entire team out there basically.
So I think it was 20 out of 23 rostered players that ended up on the floor at one point.
Yeah, on Sunday, right? I think Friday was about 15 players, but yeah, I mean, my volleyball knowledge is not that great, but I know it's difficult to play well when you're coming off the bench like that. So, that could be something that helps this team down the line if they need like depth support in future games, like especially in the Big West and all of that. There's a lot of great teams in there too. So that's going to benefit them as well.
Well, with Charlie Wade's system, he's been here for a very long time. And the one thing that he always values is depth. He says, it doesn't matter how many guys you have on the bench. It only matters, how well those guys really play. And that's real depth. I mean, we saw guys, and I'm going to spout these guys out because 2 of them, were my classmates, in Alaka'i Todd and Kana'i Akana. They did really good. And I think there's one guy on the bench who has been attracting a lot of attention. I think deserves a lot of attention is Makua Maramoto. Even though he didn't, I knew he went to Punahou because I've definitely interacted with him when he was in middle school and I was in high school. But he is the driver of that bench when it comes to, all the cheers, making sure that everyone's hyped up and all that stuff. So I think as great as a lot of the starters did, with Edward Waters, it really put a highlight on how great this depth is for the Hawaii men's volleyball.
It's really nice to see Makua Maramoto come off the bench because, you said he was a very high energy guy, always cheering guys on from the bench, but to see him get those 2 kills to end the series, it was just really, really great for that guy to get an opportunity in the game.
And of course, that was not the only thing for Hawaii athletics this weekend, as we saw the men's basketball kind of have 2 really great games. I mean, coming into conference play, I would like to think that the general opinion about this team was we're probably going to be middling, probably nothing too good, probably stick around that 5th or 4th place in the Big West. But with the return of Bernardo da Silva, We're still waiting to see Mate Cholina come back just due to a lot of, his own COVID issues that he's dealing with. But I think with the return of Bernardo da Silva, the energy level we're seeing from not only the starting unit, but a little bit of the bench as well, has just been like tenfold.
Yeah, I mean, it was I wasn't expecting, to be honest. I think on Thursday when they played Irvine, I wasn't expecting it to be like that much of, like, I think it was a 16-point win or something. Like, the struggles they've had against them historically, it was kind of, I don't want to say shocking, because we've seen these flashes of where Hawaii can be and all of that. And, we saw Noel Coleman light it up that game. I think he was 4 of 7 from beyond the arc or something around there. Irvine just did not look right on both sides of the court. I mean, credit this Hawaii defense and offense. They looked really good. I mean, we always keep talking about like that three-headed monster of DeRosier, Hepa, and, now Da Silva's back. So they have that, like, that length almost, because it's really hard to see someone to play a team that has like 3 bigs and they're all really well talented.
Speaking of Noel Coleman, if you're somehow watching this, thank you. But happy birthday, man. We're recording this on January 17th, and just happy birthday. Congratulations. Had a great weekend. Happy for you, man.
I think what's really great about Noel Coleman is, I think coming into this season, I was really not expecting him to become this much of a scorer. I think last year there was a lot of people that we were expecting to step up. We were still waiting to see what Bernardo da Silva could do. Then we saw what he did at the beginning of the season before, exiting with a hand injury for about a month and a half there. I think we were expecting Samuta Avea to pick up some scoring slack along with Juan Munoz. But with all of them, being injured for so long, I think with all that being said, Noel Coleman has really become kind of like a James Harden. You see him step back, lefty 3. He's basically 100%. Unfortunately, on Saturday night against UC San Diego, everyone was doing really well on offense except for Noel Coleman, who was 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. But he's really become a big leader for this team, both on offense and on defense. And I think you were mentioning how great the UH's defense has been. I think one guy that has to be credited is Jerome DeRosier. I mean, you saw him just absolutely shut down a lot of people for the Tritons on Saturday in a game where they just struggled. And of course, it's unfortunate for them because they only had a 4-person bench. They were without their 3 top scorers, so it was asking a lot of them to come down and even play this game. But fortunately for us, it boosts our regular season schedule, just not our Big West schedule, unfortunately.
Yeah, but like you said, it doesn't really count towards Big West, but it's great experience. DeRosier, I think he had career highs on Saturday, right? 18 points, 13 rebounds, 3 consecutive double-doubles, which is, I think, he's the first UH player to do that since Stan Hardinger back in like 14 or something, which is, crazy. I mean, you keep seeing how Ganad is like raving about him after, how he's a team player, and he, when you listen to him talk, he really is. I think Diego and I were at Men's Basketball Media Day, and we asked him questions, and he was, humble, honest, and he was a great person to talk to. I mean, he was really good at that sort of like the media interviews and stuff.
Yeah, speaking of media days we've been at, I mean, we got to get over to the other side with the women's basketball. They didn't find the same success as men's basketball, but they still pulled out a split in their 2 games over the weekend.
Especially with women's basketball, I think with Laura Beeman and crew, we were just kind of expecting them to just try at this point. I mean, we saw the game from Wednesday, and that was just kind of rough to see, because you never want to see a game lost. Where's the score here? Yeah, 58-82. It really sucks to see that. But to then just turn it around and then beat Cal Irvine 77-73, who is every year one of the best teams in the Big West Conference. I mean, I think that only speaks to how much, how good of a coach Laura Beeman is. I mean, not to discredit any of the girls, playing out there, but I think this is going to be kind of what this season is. It's either going to be very big highs or kind of expecting a little bit of the lows a little bit as we expect a better recruiting class for, 2022 to 2023.
Reminds me of the football team. High highs, low lows. Although I think, you talked about Laura Beeman. One of the people that I've seen really, really light it up on the court has been Amy Abel. She's been the team's leading scorer throughout both games. She put up 20 against Irvine, which is just, I don't know a ton about basketball, but 20 points, that's got to be really good.
I mean, Amy Atwell has been one of the most consistent players for Laura Beeman the last couple of years. I mean, it's very hard to expect anything less than that from Amy. But I think someone to be looking for the last couple of weeks has been Melanie Mcbee, who's just been absolutely lights out from three. I mean, in that 77-73 win, she went 5 of 8 from three, getting 15 points overall, a block, a steal, and only 1 turnover. I mean, I feel like that's really good production. I mean, it doesn't matter, which court you're playing on. That's really just great production.
Yeah, she's starting to earn that, Melanie McThree nickname almost, sort of. And then, yeah, we've seen her knock down huge threes. I think the one we all remember, I think, is the one against Portland State, that first win of the season, where she hit left corner from with 15 seconds to go in the game. That was huge. Like you said, 5 of 8 from three. That is an insane amount of that's an insane shooting percentage, first off. And then we have to talk about Atwell, McBee, and then Deja Phillips was huge in that Irvine win too. I think she had 14 points or something like that, because those three, they actually made up about 49 of the 73 points. Was it 73 or 77 points?
77.
This is why we are not math majors.
But it's really good to see that from Deja Phillips, especially coming off that year from the ACL tear. We have Melanie Mcbee, and both of them are freshmen, by the way. So these are going to be names we're going to hopefully be calling for. I say hopefully because the college transfer portal is very much a monster that we have to face pretty much with every single day. But I love it. There's a good future, a good foundation with this Rainbow Wahine squad, and seeing a lot of big recruits coming in, I think, next year. We'll probably be kind of shooting for that upper echelon of maybe top 3, top 4 of the Big West as they, hope to compete in the Big West tournaments in the spring.
Speaking of which.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll stick to the one I keep in my pocket at all times. It's running low, but I got to replace it. Thank God they have CVS and Target and all of that.
It's from the podcast, right?
Probably not.
Honestly, right here, we should just cut straight back in because no one will know what we're laughing about. And I think, we're laughing as hard as we can. Let's talk about, probably our main topic of the podcast today.
Okay, let's do that.
So, just like I'm sure you are after we edit this, we were also blindsided by the fact that Todd Graham resigned. Khoury Bethley is transferring. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more interesting, we got this. I mean, we have to talk about this. After all, we are a sports podcast. We started off talking about football last semester. It has to be done.
That was the big news of the weekend, really, wasn't it? I mean, if there was a perfect time for the athletic department to release that statement too, it was when they did. That's a midnight on the East Coast. Men's volleyball game about to start in Hawaii, and I don't know about everybody else, but I was scrambling around when they announced that, because I was sitting in front of my TV. I was like, okay, the game's gonna start, and then it was check Twitter, and it's he resigned, so I have to sprint and get all this stuff ready.
I mean, I think with Todd Graham, we pretty much, there's so much baggage when it comes to him and the situation around him. Do I think he did any of this on purpose when it comes to, into allegedly, abusing, mentally, the football players, saying a lot of this stuff that was said in the Senate hearings? Do I think he did it out of mean-spiritedness? I don't think so. I think he is just, a guy that's just not ready for this, style of modern football. I mean, you look at Nick Saban, who's probably one of the hardest, heads of all the head coaches. And even he had to say he had to adapt. And I think that's where Todd Graham failed. And you can look at that all the way from ASU. You can look at that at Pitt. You can look at that at Tulsa. He has people from all these programs who come back and say, this is the worst person who has ever coached me. And yeah, you probably have some kids that are like, but what about me? I thought he did a great job coaching me. He was a great guy to me. And it's like, cool, man. That's really good for you.
So whenever we talk about this, I always like to come back to a quote from Donna Mercado Kim in the state senate hearing. This isn't a popularity contest. This is about a certain set of issues that just got very, very out of control.
Sorry. For audio listeners, I rolled my eyes at the mention of Donna Mercado Kim. I have to be very real about that Senate hearing. It did nothing. Nobody won. The only people that won are the politicians that wanted to use it for their names to get out there. Like, let's be real. I don't think any of us knew who Kurt Favela was. He didn't even know who Dave Matlin was. He couldn't call him by his name. He couldn't call David Lasner by his name. He couldn't call Todd Graham by his name. And I think, there was a lot of stuff that was said in in the testimonies that I think benefited, a lot of people. And I think out of all this is just politicians trying to be, trying to get their names out there during an election year. That's how I feel about it. And then, fortunately, I don't know if this was the move for Todd Graham to resign, but I think it definitely was one of the dominoes that probably forced him to resign. And it's not like, Lasner or Matlin, were going to fire him. They backed him up, and they were ready for one more year for him. I mean, in my opinion, I was ready for him for one more year just to see what would happen, because I didn't think we would fire him. We didn't have the money for that. So for him to resign, that was huge, for a lot of people. And what was great about it is now we get this off our chest. We could say, dang, Todd Graham was rough, man. That was a rough period. Was it as bad as Norm Chow or Von Oppen? Performance-wise, no. But morale-wise, I would probably say yeah.
Do you want to go ahead?
I'm inclined to agree. But, I mean, that's really all I had to say. Record-wise, Todd Graham did not bad. We said it multiple times. Todd Graham is a good defensive coach. He did wonders with that defense, with Khoury Bethley, Darius Muasau becoming all-conference players. And, it wasn't really about the performance. It ended up being a whole big PR issue because the way that it just got out there and the image that it projected to the fan base was just really bad. And in my opinion, I think, well, it may not have been the best move. It was at least the correct move for Todd Graham to get, all this negative PR just out of the way. He resigned of his own accord. He let Dave Matlin know, and it's just, it's at least a better look for Todd Graham.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree on that as well. I mean, the resignation it's a clean exit, as I put it. It's a clean exit from a messy tenure almost. And if we're going to go back to state senate hearing, he kind of got done a little bit dirty. I'm not saying the oral testimony was, it wasn't not.
So UH as an organization got done dirty.
Yeah.
Because as much as we want to clown them, they didn't know they were supposed to talk about the budget. Yeah. They only brought in the public testimonies a day before. So how were they supposed to prepare for that? Genuinely. It was an organized attack on UH, the organization. And I think that's something that a lot of people can agree on. That not a lot of positives came out of this. Probably the only positive is the Dr. Pepper meme. But other than that, I really don't see anything that could have possibly, came out of this. Because I don't think Dave Matlin should be fired. I don't think David Lasner should be fired. Dave Matlin's done a very good job with the university. Who else could have, done the whole TC Chang Athletics Complex deal? I don't think anyone else could have. He did an amazing job retrofitting a 4,500 or 2,500 seat complex to 9,000 this year, 15,000 hopefully next year by this summer. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's their plan. And other than Todd Graham, that's been his one big mistake as hiring. Because I think, Iran Ganat's been doing a great job. Robin Amo did a really great job. And we're about to see Rich Hill start off his season. And I can probably say from the baseball community, Rich Hill has been, doing a really great job. So other than Todd Graham, he's done a great job. But unfortunately, football is a little bit important to this athletics, to the athletics when it comes to bringing in revenue. So this hire is going to be the make or break for David Matlin, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. If he makes another mistake when it comes to hiring a football coach that doesn't fit with the culture, that refuses to connect to the community, or, have all these issues with, not letting the kids play music, not letting them work out together, that's going to be it. And that it sucks to say because I love Dave Matlin, but you have to get, consequences for your actions.
Yeah, with football, right? It's the main breadwinner for this athletics department. I think they lost almost about $15 million because they didn't have all that revenue from football during the COVID phase last year. And I kind of likened what Dave Reardon at the Honolulu Star Advertiser said. He was like, Matlin's done good. He was like a good cornerback for like 59 minutes, and then this last hire, he just got burned in the last 60 seconds. So again, like you said, I agree. It's gonna be his make or break hire, I think, because all these other hires, like you said, have done really well. It's just a matter of who do they get. That's really going to be the main question. I mean, everybody has been speculating about that, including me.
Speaking of speculation, let's get to some speculation. So we'll start first with you, Reese. Who do you want, or who do you think should be the next University of Hawaii head coach of football?
I think it's clear, right, that everybody wants somebody with Hawaii ties to Hawaii somehow. I mean, I want someone who can bring the run and shoot offense back, like maybe like Brian Smith or maybe even Miano. But I'm not. It's probably in reality, I think it's probably going to be somebody like maybe like Brian Norwood, or can they get someone like Ken Numatololo here? Former Hawaii players who could bring stability, and I don't know if Norwood has that player's reputation or that reputation as a player's coach. But he was like coaching finalist, I think, the last 3 coaching cycles for Hawaii. So it seems like eventually his time is going to have to come. So maybe it could be in this next cycle. And for me, the question is going to be who wants to take over this job, because the headline we used in our timeline piece was from Pride Rock to rock bottom. And so somehow it's a rebuilding job, 3 seasons, 3 years off a 10-win season. So we'll have to see.
So I'm probably not going to go off the beaten path here. My best candidate, in my opinion, is Rich Miano. I've had the opportunity to talk with him a lot the last couple of years working at ESPN Honolulu. I think as a coach, he brings kind of that swagger back. I mean, it's that kind of like that swagger that Rolovich kind of had, of that arrogance, almost cocky kind of deal. I think he can bring that. As a DB coach, I know he coached under June Jones, before he took his job with Spectrum after the whole McMacken situation. This is the thing with Rich Miano, you're not going to get a guy that's been a recent coach. And I think that's where a lot of issues rise with a lot of people. With Rich Miano, you're going to get probably one of the better recruiters out of a lot of these guys, because a lot of people want June Jones, because it's June. We all know who June Jones is, and a lot of recruits know who June Jones is. And his take towards recruiting is they're going to find us, they're going to come here, and we'll make them work. Rich Miano is the kind of guy that'll go out and find them. He'll go out and actually, find these recruits. And we've seen him, still do a lot of these executive decisions, whether it be with his Hawaii and Speedness camps, his the Hula Bowl, a lot of that stuff. So he has been available to make a lot of these decisions at an executive level. And he's still shown that he still has a little bit of coaching when he won the D2 title a couple of years ago and back in 2012 with Kaiser, as he went, 20-4 in 2 years, which is really good. And I think clearly of all of the candidates, Rich Miano is a fan favorite. He is one of those guys where if you ask about him, the fans will say he deserves it. He was a finalist with Nick Rolovich back a couple of years ago. And I think he should have, probably gotten it then because Nick Rolovich was still a young guy who didn't, necessarily have that head coaching tenure with him. It took him 2 years to get really good. So maybe if he was there with him, that would have gone very well for the University of Hawaii. But looking at all of this, in my opinion, if I had a top 3, I would probably say, Miano. I'd probably say Brian Smith just because he does have that run and shoot situation. He is one of the lone vaxxed members of that Rolo crew. So he's probably very favorite with Matlin because I don't think Stutzman, because Stutzman has been a name that's been thrown out a little bit here and there. I just really doubt that him talking with David Matlin will then somehow convince him that, oh, okay, we'll just give you a religious exemption out of nowhere. So I really don't think that's happening. So I would probably say Miano, Brian Smith, and probably just for fun, because I made a whole document about it. And I'm really using none of it because I'm talking about stuff that pretty much everyone already knows. I think this is the thing. I'll put him at 3 here, even though I think we've already talked about this off air, kind of. Timmy Chang. I think he could be brought in as a coordinator or an assistant to be coached up to become the head coach. I just don't think he's ready to be a head coach yet. He still needs a lot of fine-tuning. He's been the tight ends coach at Nevada. He's now the wide receiver coach at Colorado State. He doesn't really have a lot of experience even as an offensive coordinator. I mean, his 1 year as an offensive coordinator is in Jackson State in 2014. And yeah, his quarterback and wide receiver earned all SWAC honors, but that was a long time ago. If he was brought here to become the offensive coordinator, probably that'd be cool, or like a passing game coordinator or something. But head coach, I'm not sure. So I'll put him at 3 just for fun.
I mean, I'm gonna agree with you, Tanner, because I also think that Rich Miano would be probably the best hire out of all of them. Something I just want to get out of the way because I think for a lot of people it may be a bit of a misconception. I don't really think you need coordinator experience to be a head coach, because when you think about it, you can get people to play calls, you can hire an OC at DC, but with the head coach, it's kind of like more of a management position, right? You find the best guys, you got to go out there, you got to recruit because they want to talk to the head coach, they want to talk to your position coaches. Then like Tanner said, Rich Miano's that kind of like people guy. He'll go out there and he'll recruit guys, and all the fans have a great relationship with Rich Miano, and he's just overall a Hawaii fan favorite, and I think it would be a slam dunk hire. Plus, I think after all this Todd Graham stuff, Matlin needs the good PR for this, because well, if you look at it closer, he's made a ton of good hires. We all know that football, like Tanner said, is the breadwinner for Hawaii football, for Hawaii athletics. Reece said that Hawaii football is the breadwinner for athletics. Sorry. And, they need somebody to kind of rescue that image of Hawaii football right now. And I think Miano's the guy to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I would like to see him do it because, not only to say people person, but when you talk to some of the other people in this industry, it's clear that his football intelligence too is incredible. I mean, when you hear him on Spectrum telecast, you can see how smart he is when his football. Like, he would be the interesting choice. I kind of want to disagree with the Timmy Chang as a head coach still, just because I'm not really so. Even like Bode said, right? He's right. You don't need to have a coordinator experience and all of that. But there's just something I can't explain it almost. But it's like he doesn't seem ready for that head coaching position, and I'm not really sold on June Jones either. I mean, because if you think about it, yes, he's gonna stabilize this program, but then it's gonna be but whoever he brings with him as his assistants, it's gonna be almost like a battle of who's gonna succeed him right after, because he's 68 years old. It's only gonna be like 3 or 4 years maybe before he retires again. So that's why I'm kind of not sold on him. I would like to see Rich Miano get his shot, but I don't know if he'll get that because who knows.
Plus, I'm really excited for the possibility of spring football with the XFL, USFL coming back. June Jones would probably take one of those jobs. With the second and third professional football league, I mean, there's a chance June Jones takes that job because I believe he was with PJ Walker in the XFL with the
Houston
team.
Roughnecks.
Yeah, the Houston Roughnecks.
The undefeated Houston Roughnecks with the MVP PJ Walker, as they're probably running the run and shoot basically. And I think I've been looking at a lot of the candidates, or at least a lot of the candidates that have been considered by both fans and by other media. And it's really funny when you look at it because you see names like, the guy, there's Elisa Tuiaki, who's the defensive coordinator at BYU. You see Brian Norwood, who's the DB coach at UCLA. You see, I'm kind of picking here, but Ikaika Malloy, who's a defensive assistant coach at UCLA, or Chad Kauha'a, defensive assistant coach at UCLA. There's a lot of people, and then you can look at right here, who's our interim coach right now, Jacob Yoro, who's also, I think, a really good candidate, along with, Victor Santa Cruz and Abe Eliminian. A common theme is that they're all defensive coaches. And you can say the same thing with Rich Miano. He was a defensive back coach. And a lot of people really do want that run and shoot back. And I think with all of those guys, I think the only person to bring in or have the ability to bring in a run and shoot offensive coordinator to stay is probably Rich Miano. Because a lot of these guys are younger. Rich, no offense to him, he's on the older side. Obviously, you couldn't tell if, you were right with him. He's a very good-looking man. Yeah, exactly. But I think Rich can sell this program probably as best as anyone could. I agree on your points with June of I don't want to say I'm not sold on him because I think we all know what you're going to get with June Jones. Right. But I do agree with your point of is that whole battle of who's up next. And maybe if you look at it with a whole, maybe he brings in Rich and, and Timmy, and then you see that happen. But that'd be really cool if that could happen. But, with what money are we going to bring in June Jones? I'm sorry, man. He's going to be making millions with the USFL and the XFL. I'm sorry. I don't know if he's coming. I would love for him to be here. I mean, right now he's on island he's at I think he's at Cam Kapalama for the Polynesian Bowl. So that's really cool. That's a fun event, by the way. I hopefully will be able to watch some of that. But another name I've seen is Khoury Bethley, another defensive coordinator. But it's just the only guy I think I'm confident in selling this program and to maybe even get a guy like Brian Smith as your OC. It's probably Rich. I
agree. I mean, if you look at it, it's quite clear that he should be one of these favorites. I mean, I would like it, but again, I had to go back a bit to reality where I think it's probably going to be somebody like Norwood, or they might steal somebody like Kenu Montalolo from Navy because of all the stuff that has happened in Annapolis. But yeah, Rich Miano would be is the perfect person to bring this program back. It's again, this is all speculative, so we don't know what's going on in David Matlin's head right now. So,
of course, we all knew that Todd Graham was a popular candidate before he was announced. I don't think anyone knew that Todd Graham was even being considered for the head coaching job before a lot of the information came out. So for all we know, Dave Matlin could be like Ed Lamb, assistant head coach and special team coordinator at BYU. You will be our next head coach. And it's just what? Who? It's the same situation that we had with, Todd Graham. Because even though he won the Pac-12, Coach of the Year at one point, my initial reaction to Todd Graham was, who? After Nick Rolovich? We're going to get, no offense, we're going to get the old white guy who has no ties to Hawaii? I'm sorry, man. I gotta be real with this one. If we get another old white guy with zero connection to Hawaii other than I vacationed there once and it was a beautiful time with my wife. If we have that again, I have no faith in this football system. Like, genuinely, if that happens again.
Everybody has put Ed Lamb on their coaching candidate list for some reason. I don't get that. Why? Like,
It's because he was a candidate when Todd Graham was hired, I guess. But I think I really hope that in that situation, Matlin was looking for a specific kind of person to jump forward this program. We need someone to coddle this program. And like we've already talked about it before, Rich Miano feels like that guy. But for some reason, Matlin does not really consider Miano, I feel like, a lot. And I don't know why.
it's like it's a lot of candidates, right? Because we're talking about like Norwood. He was the last 3 coaching cycles. He was a finalist.
I mean, Robert Anai from Syracuse. I mean, he went to Kahuku, then to BYU, and that's all we hear about him. But you know, he flew into Hawaii for the last candidate, and I don't want him.
I can't. Did you see that tweet from?
He has a pro style offense. We want Norm Chow.
That's what everybody does. Did you see that tweet? It was like fake UH Sports or UH Sports 808 or something.
This is what I heard about when like Todd Graham was being considered.
It's
literally just Norm Chow.
It's just Norm Chow
again.
2.0.
Except, you know, he probably has a way more outgoing personality than Norm Chow. You know, I'll say as a Punahou graduate, we're all kind of introverted. We all don't really like to go to Kahuku or Waianae if we're not pressured. But like once you get out there and you actually talk to these kind of people, then you'll love it out there and you'll be like, God, why was I so weird about it? It's because you went to Punahou. You're not really put in that situation a lot of the times. And so you look at these guys, you know, that have been brought up a lot. You know, Robert and I, Norwood, Keith Bonifa is a name that I seem to see a lot. Ikaika Malloy is also another name. I'm just like, I just need someone with Hawaii ties. And it feels weird because I feel like I'm like desperate for it. It's like, please, just say he went to UH with.
I want somebody who has ties to this program, not somebody who has, you know, they were like, oh, they went to like high school here or they're from here. I want somebody who's like a former player, former coach here. That's
why I think Miano's the perfect candidate. Because not only that, he's also part of one of the best walk-on programs in the country. Like, the walk-on program for UH is famous for this, for people like Rich Miano. And it's just like, man, look at this guy. He's perfect. Why can't we do it? And it's probably because of, you know, something that Matlin sees that we don't see, which is fair. We're a bunch of 20-year-olds. What do we know?
Do we know for sure that he has applied, though? Because I don't want to...
Yes, he has applied.
He has applied? Okay, then he should be getting this. Okay. Because I really hope he does, but, like, again...
He was second choice when it came to Rolovich, so...
Yeah, but...
Well, just so you know.
Rolovich is...
Rolovich
is probably not a candidate this cycle, so he could be...
Stutzman is, though. You never know.
We never know, but I think, yeah, I know I said earlier, you know, Norwood, Numatalolo, but Miano should be if not, he should be the favorite.
I do also want to say, I know we're like probably super long at this point with this segment, I've seen Brent Brennan's name put in the list.
Didn't get that one.
What?
I think that's just like, because I think someone said, because the Mountain West has been so wacky. And it's like, that would be pretty crazy.
Speaking of wacky, we should head back to the whack. That'd be fun.
No, let's not go back to the whack.
The problem with hiring Brent Brennan is that it's such a lateral move. If anything, it's actually a downstep.
It's a downstep for Brent. Especially because, you know, who just went to San Jose State? Because they didn't want to be at Hawaii anymore, because they wanted to be with Brent Brennan. You think, and it's just like, look, man, let's be real. It's not Brent Brennan. Why would he leave? He has a great program at San Jose State. He has one of the best recruiting systems, I think. I mean, he runs a lot of areas of California as well as here. He's gotten a lot of really great recruits from Hawaii as well. So it's just like, he's got a good thing going. Why would he leave for less?
It's even, well, that's the thing too, is that it's about the same, right? Because they have the facilities are about maybe the same, if not even better, at San Jose State. You don't have to deal with these 5-hour flights to the mainland too. So, like, why? That's what I don't get. Everybody has put his name in, but it's like, I can't see that happening.
You know who could be the next candidate? Nick Saban. Yeah. Yeah, you know? And I think that's basically where it cuts off with this head coaching thing. Because I think we're all on the same page here. We all like Miano. We all feel like he should be the favorite. I just won't be surprised if it's not him.
I just want to talk about one thing, because you mentioned Ken Niuimatalolo. I think it would be hilarious, which this isn't like a real thing, but I just think it'd be hilarious if he came over to Hawaii and we just started running the triple option, just wishbone every single play.
We go back to the Paul Johnson.
Run it down, everyone.
Just hire Paul Johnson at that point.
In my opinion, though, is that would actually work, because it's like the triple option. We've seen how effective it is. The problem is that fans don't like it as much, and once you run the triple option, you get associated with that. That's why.
And we'll see Ken Niuimatalolo. When he retires, he's going to come back. He said plenty about how he wants to coach high school here. So he'll come back, just not for UH. I don't think he's right for the UH system, when it comes to, the triple option, all that stuff. But, I think out of all that, we're just kind of talking in circles here. I think this is about a good time to wrap it up here.
One more thing. It would be great for the memes for the green and black, because we've talked ad nauseum about the Air Force running stats. But yes, I believe you're right. We have gone on long a little bit about the head coaching search. I do have one more question for you guys about football. Where do you think Khoury Bethley goes? He transferred right after the Graham announcement.
He could go anywhere.
He could actually come back. He said it was open.
He could come back. That'd be
great. Cool if we hire someone. If we don't, I won't say it again, but
I think if we hire Rich Miano, it would be good, because he is a DB's coach.
He's a DB's coach. I know Miano loves Khoury Bethley. I mean, he loves Rich Miano loves a lot of people on this football team, but I mean, I'll let Khoury go wherever he wants to go, man. I put it out on Twitter because I saw someone say like "F off" to Khoury Bethley. Yeah, and the guy came out and he's like apologized for it, but it's just like, let's be real here. Khoury's been here since Rolovich. Then Rolovich left and Todd Graham came, and then Todd Graham resigned. Khoury hasn't had a lot of, I would say in all this situation, because they both called to resign. I want him to be happy. I want him to go where he wants to go. He has one more year of eligibility. Have him go to a big Power 5 school. I mean, he could go to, I don't know, UCLA. Have him join or Oklahoma. I don't know. Have him join all the Hawaii people.
He wants to join a Big 12.
No, he can. Why not? Jonah Laulu did.
I mean, Big 12 defenses have been notoriously memes.
Apparently, except for David Randall.
Oh, yeah. He should join David Randall Taylor. That'd be a really good.
That'd be cool. I don't know if that necessarily fits the system that he wants to play in. I will say, that's why I don't know a lot of the Power 5 programs. UCLA probably is heavily recruiting him, because they heavily recruit basically all of our guys.
He's from that area too, right? He's from Chino.
Yeah, right around that area. So I'll have him go wherever he wants to go.
This sounds like we're breaking up with a girlfriend. Like, yeah.
We kind of are.
Yeah.
We kind of are. They left us. And you know what?
We just want them to be.
We're not better for it. But it's kind of how life goes.
Yeah. Like, again, I hope he's happy. But I'd be disappointed if I hope he's like, because like you said, he's been through a lot with this coaching changes and stuff, but I'd be kind of shocked if he went somewhere that's not a Power 5 school outside of Hawaii. I mean, he has that talent to where he can be like that X factor on defense. Everybody has been talking about like his football intelligence. We saw how many, I don't know how many turnovers he forced against Fresno, but that was insane.
And the thing is, like, he's transferring as the spring semester has started already, so he's got plenty of time. I mean, I'm assuming he's probably still, going to school. I mean, because that's the whole issue with the whole thing, is like, when you transfer, you're also a student. You also transfer as a student, which is, I think, something a lot of people don't consider when it comes to the transfer portal, is you need to have really good grades to transfer kind of wherever you want to go. And I think it's a testament to a lot of the people behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see, advisors, admissions folks that help out a lot of these kids, because there's a lot of kids transferring this year. And so it's causing, a lot of, I would say hassle, but it's a lot of extra work. So, I just probably want to say, shout out to everyone behind the scenes that don't necessarily get all that love, whether it be, your advisor, whether it be the admissions guy that stays up a little bit longer to make sure those credits go through. And then we got to think about the families of these kids, because, let's remember, they're kids. We're kids. I mean, let's face it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see. And to them, this is the right call. And that's all it should matter to. It should only matter to the person that decides to transfer, whether or not it was the right choice, because it doesn't affect our life whether or not they go somewhere or not. So don't say F off to a student athlete who you don't know personally on Twitter, because it's kind of cringe. It's a little weird.
Could you imagine if you said that to them in person? I mean, I don't think Khoury Bethley's going to be like a mean. Khoury Bethley's not a mean guy, but
to quote, I think Aaron Cephas said this, because this is a quote retweeted one of my tweets when I was like, a lot of people are calling Jonah Laulu and Darius Musau crybabies for transferring. It's like, go up to Jonah Laulu and call him a crybaby.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But then Aaron Cephas said they wouldn't give him the light of the day. And let's be real, don't give him the light of the day. Don't quote retweet them. Just talk about them. Don't even say their name, because they shouldn't be people who we should be focusing on. And I'm going to turn this into a slightly psychological thing. It's just that's just how you should face adversity, I think, when it comes to situations like these, because they don't know you. They don't know what you went through. So a lot of this stuff is just stuff that you can brush off and say, hey, they're just haters. They hate us because they hate us.
I think that's a very good line to end this segment. I think that's probably enough time spent on Hawaii football. And before we move on to our next segment, you talked about behind the scenes. Thank you, Diego, for putting this all together. You're awesome, man. Woo! Yeah, our photo editor, Diego. So now moving into the probably only original bit of this podcast. What's a song that describes this week in Hawaii athletics? I don't know.
Well, I was looking at my song chart. Well, first off, let me say that I just thought of this 20 minutes ago, because I totally forgot in my prep sheet to do this earlier. But I was looking at my song chart, and I noticed that in addition to picking a different song each week, I've also picked a different artist as well. So I will try and stick to that. But to sum up this week, I think it was crazy, wasn't it? I mean, we had 4 games on campus, a head coach resigned, 2 games on the road for women's basketball, and then, I mean, if we're going to talk about other sports too, I think sailing, they won their regatta against, I don't know, who were they? I'm sorry, it was USC, yeah. Let me look at the recap they put out. So they ended up actually winning against Salve Regina University, I think, or somebody like that. And then women's tennis lost to UW, I think, as well this past week. So that was, a little bit of a bummer. But back to the song bit, I think I'm gonna go with "Crazy Train" by Ozzy Osbourne, just because. I mean, were you not going off the rails?
We were going on. Me and Diego were going off the rails at volleyball the minute that news came out. That was just crazy. You could see some people down the line check their phones like, what? Tanner, I'll let you go next.
So I'm going to go I think a couple of people will know what the song is. I'll preface this. If you have played Guitar Hero before, you probably know what the song is. I'm going to go with Through the Fire and the Flames. Solely for the fact that the Hawaii Athletics right now is kind of going through that. They're going through the fire and flames. But the whole point of the song is, through all this, we're going to get stronger. And it's if you listen to the song, you can hear how chaotic it is. I'm sure only like a couple of people have heard it, but I think right now, whether it be the Todd Graham situation, whether it be, us trying to get through injuries, I'd probably exclude Hawaii volleyball from this. They're doing all right for themselves. But we got to get through this. These are just, tribulations that we just have to face. And hopefully, we're going to get better from it if we hire Rich Miano.
So now I guess it's on me. I feel like I went in a very different direction than both of you. I went with Blank Space by Taylor Swift. Yeah, I guess you can all see where I'm going with this, with the departure of Todd Graham. I guess this doesn't totally apply to, the other sports as much, but, with the big news in Hawaii athletics being Todd Graham resigning and, Khoury Bethley potentially leaving, there's a whole blank space with the whole football program because it kind of reminds me of, I think the 2019 Dolphins. Remember when just everyone was leaving, everything was tank for Tua. You didn't know what to. You expected not great stuff from this Dolphins team, but I don't know what to expect from this Hawaii football team. So right now it's just a blank space, baby, and I'm gonna go into some lyrics because that's the thing I did this time. So, the opening, the opening lyrics are, "Nice to meet you, where you've been," and it's kind of we looked for weirdly he was a big name coach in the Pac-12, and it's kind of just why you guys said what who next is so it's gonna be forever or it's gonna go down in flames. I mean, do I really need to say more? It kind of, like Tanner said, it went down in flames. But I think that's enough of me analyzing lyrics because you guys look very, very weirded out.
I mean, I picked a Taylor Swift song earlier this season, so I'm not criticizing that. I think it's just your in-depth lyrics are a little more questionable.
I just feel bad for whoever has to edit this.
I think
it's me
it's
anyway.
Bode anyway.
It's me and Diego.
Maybe Diego, yeah.
Sorry, Diego.
I feel more bad about Diego than for anything else.
Sorry.
No one will ever know about.
Well, they'll just hear the laughing.
It's mainly long pauses and anything that'll get me canceled or fired.
You say stuff like that. I think with that's a pretty good place to wrap up the show.
Yeah, thank you for tuning into our first video version of the Green and Black, and for those of you listening, thank you for just continuing to support us. So
it'll get better from here, folks. Don't worry.
Well, we've said that about Todd Graham, and we're not sure.
Well, don't worry. I'm the new hire. I'm in here. We're gonna. This is gonna be a good project. And we're gonna get this
what I'm hearing is, we stay hungry, we devour. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, to be fair, we're no disrespect, but the bar has already been. We're at very low expectations already. We can just the only way is up, to be honest.
The only way is up. We're not gonna keep this low expectation stuff. It's 2022. It's a brand new year. We got no football coach, people. The only way is up. The only way is up. That's probably the best way to live life. Do something good for yourself today. Do something good for another person today. Get you that Jamba Juice that you were thinking about.
Or
Probably
the Taco
not
Bell
here.
wings.
Do not get the Taco Bell wings. Don't. But other than that, stay positive.
Clearly not a sponsor, but yeah. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Shoots.